So. Comme ça.
Comme ça.
How's your weekend?
It was great.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah, it was great. Packed as well.
How was your weekend? Let us know. You know we love to hear from you. We love to interact with you. And our social media handles, everywhere you'll find us GTV Ghana. And share your thoughts with us on our WhatsApp number 055 55 61034. That's how you can reach us.
Yes, indeed.
What do we have today?
Okay, so today we have a mixed cocktail. So there's the social media corner.
Love that.
So I'm looking forward to that myself because listen, the videos we have for you, crazy.
Okay.
Let's talk the fun part first. And then later on, with me at the lighter side of the breakfast table, we have two influencers. But this time, food influencers. So we have SDK and his colleague, and they are going to be battling it out. But there's going to be food in the studio.
Thank you.
So people, if you are team SDK, let us know. Our socials are active. We're also going to be stepping into the BFS clinic. What's going to be happening there, Chick?
Health matters will occupy all our thoughts, and we would want you to keep healthy as well. So you want to sit down for that conversation. We'll also be delving into alternative dispute resolution on this table today, and there's an independent presidential candidate who will be sitting with us. Dr. Sam Ankrah will share his vision for Ghana should he get the nod to be the country's next president. And he'll be hoping that you hear his thoughts and ask your questions as well, and we'll take them across our platforms. So the big stories in the news, we'll also be discussing those in the headlines. Big one from the US, Joe Biden has withdrawn from the race after weeks of intense pressure.
You kept saying.
I kept saying
he was going to resign.
Yeah. It didn't look like it could go any other way. But he's endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris, to be his successor. If she does get the nod to be the Democrats' presidential candidate, she'll have to elect a vice, and then you'll go into the November poll. If she wins it, she'll be the first American female president of the United States. So lots happening in the news circles. Maltiti Saida Sadiq will bring us the news at 6 in about a minute.
Guess what? Our campaign still holds. Our campaign on road. So we are asking you, what's the worst road you've been on in Ghana? Let us know what's the worst road you've been on in Ghana. Our socials are active on 055 55 61034. Check, you were saying?
Sometimes I feel that in the heart of Accra proper, the bad roads, not really. But when you start to move away from the center, the link roads, the connection, the Bubiashi area, not too good. There's a massive one on the Kolebu, just turning from the motorway, from the mortuary road into the Kolebu Polyclinic
That's bad
area.
as well.
A whole portion of it has like worn off, washed away, however it happened. And this is approaching a major hospital, a 2,000 capacity bed hospital. For me, that's quite unfortunate. So, yeah.
So we are asking these questions and also asking how you are surviving in our current economy. We're handing over to Saida Sadiq. She's ready.
With the news.
All pinky. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll take a quick break. When we return, the news is next.
Let's go.
July 6 a.m. Welcome to GTV Breakfast News. I am Maltiti Saida Sadiq. Lots of stories making headlines on the local and international front to bring you stories of the AU Summit, health and business. I take you to the foreign front where President Joe Biden has stepped down from his re-election as President of the United States. We take you to Ukraine as well. You can watch the news live on GTV Ghana on Facebook. We're streaming there on DSTV channel 278. around the world. I am Altiti Saida Sadiq. Let's begin from President Akufo-Addo at the AU Media Coordination Meeting. Now, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, said the African Central Bank, African Investment Bank, and African Monetary Fund must urgently come on stream. When he addressed the AU Media Cooperation Meeting in Accra, President Akufo-Addo said creating these institutions is vital to achieving the financial stability and economic integration necessary to successfully implement Agenda 2063.
The 6th Media Coordination Meeting of the African Union brought together members from the regional economic communities, the regional mechanisms and AU member states. With a focus on education and skill Africa for the 21st century, the meeting was for the AU and regional economic communities to align their work and coordinate implementation of the continental integration agenda, replacing the June-July summits. The Accra meeting is also intended to assess the status of continental integration and coordinate efforts to celebrate the integration process, coordinate the implementation of a clear division of labor and effective collaboration between the AU and regional economic communities. The President of the AU Commission, Mr. Musa Faki Mahamat, called on member countries to increase efforts to clear bottlenecks to full integration of the continent.
The free movement of persons and goods and also a vision in order to take up the challenges of infrastructure considered as a major impediment to integration.
The chair of the African Union and president of Mauritania, Mohamed Ghazouani, asked his colleague heads of state to work together to speed up the continent's integration. President Akufo-Addo said the creation of the African Central Bank, African Investment Bank and African Monetary Fund is vital to achieving the financial stability and economic integration necessary for the successful implementation of Agenda 2063.
The establishment of these financial institutions is not merely an administrative exercise. It is a bold and visionary step towards a unified, prosperous, and self-reliant Africa. It will be a testament to our collective resolve to take control of our financial destiny and build a future that reflects the true potential of our continent.
He drew the meeting's attention to the recent proposal by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development for a 10% tax on revenue of multinational companies operating in their respective localities.
We need a multifaceted strategy that includes improving tax collection systems, curbing illicit financial flows, and leveraging public-private partnerships. Enhancing the efficiency and capacity of our tax administrations will ensure that we can capture a larger share of domestic revenues, which can be reinvested into important sections such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure.
President Akufo-Addo called on participants to work to prevent illicit financial flows and capital flight from the continent.
And on the sidelines of the 6th African Union Mid-Year Summit in Accra, the participants agreed on an African Union Digital Compact, which sets the stage for a uniquely designed artificial intelligence strategy, which is African-owned, African-centered, and focuses on African issues. The compact will be submitted to the United Nations for inclusion into the Global Digital Compact and Artificial Intelligence Strategy in September this year. Nuto Bibini Nuto has more.
The 6th Mid-Year Summit and Committee meeting of the African Union in Accra had infrastructure as one of the critical issues on the table for consideration. Leaders were preoccupied with strategies that could up infrastructure levels in the areas of energy that are especially clean and affordable, multimodal transportation, road networks, and harnessing emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence AI that could stir intra-African trade, create jobs for Africa's teeming youth, and ultimately lead to development. The leaders approved the much-anticipated African Digital Compact, which could be the blueprint or Africa's positioned and interest to be factored into the Global Digital Compact and Artificial Intelligence Strategy. In a briefing with the media, the African Union Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, Dr. Abu Zaid Amani, said, in the coming year, the African Digital Compact will be fine-tuned to guide policy decisions on education, labor, peace and security, and health, among others, in member states. She was, however, unhappy that despite being the fastest growing and most attractive investment destination, the African continent is still slapped with high interest rates on credits from development partners.
The statistics show also that African countries borrow with 4%, 8%, 10%, 12% higher than anybody else. And they the cost because it's risk. No, I'm sorry, it's not true. We have now several studies, independent ones, non-African ones, that have that clearly say that this is completely untrue. And we have to use these studies, and we have to, bang on the doors on everyone and make sure that these stereotypes and this unfair treatment of Africa, they stop.
A critical issue that came up for consideration was the African Free Trade Area Agreement, AfCFTA, which encompasses most of the African region and headquartered in Ghana. The AfCFTA is one of the regional protocols that is being forcefully implemented by the regional economic communities, with the East African Community EAC showing leadership in ensuring the maintenance of a common market, customs union and free trade area. GBC News caught up with the Secretary General of the East African Community, Ambassador Veronica Nduva, on the AfCFTA.
We have to ask ourselves, what is it that slows down our trade? How can we trade better internally? How can we trade more within our markets? How can we expand our markets? How can we benefit more from our products? And then how can we increase our trade to the rest of the world rather than minimizing it?
Since the African Union now has a seat on the Group of 20 G20, the leadership is sure to make the voice of the continent loud and relevant on trade and artificial intelligence that are shown to drive global development agenda and to place the youth of Africa at the forefront instead of the backbench. Nto Bibini Nto, GBC News, Accra.
Away from the AU Media Summit, let's look at some other stories. World leaders are expected to meet at the UN headquarters in New York in September this year for the Summit of the Future. The summit is to enhance cooperation and reaffirm existing commitment towards the Sustainable Development Goals. Ahead of the meeting, Sightsavers International has engaged with organizations of persons with disabilities in over 30 countries to capture their concerns to be considered at the upcoming summit.
In over 30 countries in Africa and Asia, Sightsavers International have been working to fight avoidable blindness as well as provide employment opportunities to persons with disabilities. The organization believes that the voices of the youth with disabilities should be captured, especially as they form a substantial percentage of the world population. In Ghana, the meeting took place at the University of Ghana. The students identified accessibility to education, healthcare and public transport and employment opportunities as some of the major barriers to their growth and development.
Access to quality healthcare is a unique need, yet many of us face systematic barriers that prevent us from receiving the care we need, from physical accessibility issues to a lack of trained healthcare workers to assist persons with disabilities at the hospitals and other healthcare facilities.
The coordinator of the SDGs platforms in Ghana, Madame Levelyn Esiedu, and the country lead of Sightsavers Ghana, Mr. David Ajiman, were confident that the voices of persons with disabilities would be heard at the World Summit.
SDGs 5, which is women and girls empowerment, and then SDG 10 is reducing inequalities syncs very well with disability inclusion. We have made history as our voices are going to be heard at the discussion table.
We think that if we do not ensure that the voices of the youth with disabilities are included in the discussions that will be happening at the summit, most likely they are going to be left out. So we want the voices of youth with disabilities to be included, to be heard at the summit.
The students were encouraged to invest more time into reading about opportunities that could benefit their future.
And Atamils Around the Regions is a new book on the shelves. It's a compilation by J.E.A. Mills Heritage, which includes all the lectures delivered across the 16 regions of Ghana as part of the year-long 10th anniversary remembrance of late President Mills. The book was unveiled during the 12th anniversary commemorative lecture at the City Conference Center of the University of Ghana. It had the theme, Remembering Atta Mills 12 Years On. Professor John Evans Atta Mills, who died while serving as president, would have marked his 80th birthday if he were alive.
This publication, which details the late president's early life, his presidency and his efforts to sustain and strengthen the economy, was reviewed and launched by Professor Ransford Edward Van Jampo, a political science professor at the University of Ghana, Legon. Quoting the late tax lawyer and politician from the book, Professor Jampo highlighted Professor Mills's desire to be remembered as truthful, humble, hands-on and down-to-earth, one of the people and one who follows the rules and eschews arrogance. Professor Jampo recommended the books to students, scholars and leaders to learn